The title of this recording is A Different View. This is A, segment A. A Different View, segment A. The reason I'm titling this A Different View is because we really want to look at things, religion and spirituality, from a very different view than most views. And what we want to do is we want to go back into history, because I want us to see something of great relevance. I want us to literally look at, just for a moment, just to stick it in our brains for, hey, wow, I never realized it was that pervasive. But I want us to see that the statutes, laws, and legislation devised by cultures, I don't care how many thousands of years you go back. I think the last culture they found was Tepe something or other, and it was 12,000 years ago, okay? So these cultures go way far back. But all of these cultures have one thing in common, and that is they eventually turn into, or they start rather, as civilizations, and then they devise laws and statutes and regulations and legislation. Now, the laws and statutes and regulations and legislation are based on their spiritual and religious ideas and codes. This is very important to see, because all of us that live in any society today, if you're listening to this, you live in a society that was forged and founded by this idea. Every single one of them that we know of. Every single one. I don't care, let's say the modern world, all the way back to the Egyptian Empire. Every single civilization, and we're using the Egyptian Empire because even if we're big thinkers, we can think back that far. Beyond that, it's kind of tough because we have to really go seriously digging, and not a lot is just like blatantly in your face. However, every single civilization, every one, and in this case I can say all. Usually it's not a good idea to say all, especially if you're writing a book or making something like I'm making now. It's never a good idea to use the word all. But in this case, we can say all civilizations that came from that time forward have set up their laws, their legislation, their regulations, their code on their spiritual and religious ideas. Every single one. Every one. That's how important religion on this planet is. That's how important spirituality on this planet is. You think, okay, well, we live in a time where all these societies are secular. Great. I'm glad they're secular, because I don't want to be ruled over by some psychotic church that takes me out and burns me because they don't like what I think or like what I say. I don't want that at all. Not in the slightest. Nobody does. That's why things are run this way now, except in certain parts of the world, which will, the Middle East, which will go unsaid. Anyway, so even though we live in secular societies, for the most part, most of the world these days, the laws, the codes, the regulations, the legislation was founded on, forged through and by our religious and spiritual beliefs. And there's a reason for that. We're going to explore the reasons for that. And we're going to look at the ideas of, okay, well, what are religions really from anyway? Because this is wisdom activists. We're looking at wisdom, not some stupid thing where you go, okay, well, I'm a wise old man sitting on a rocking chair on a porch and I'm reflecting on my life. No, that's not wisdom. Wisdom is really, really, really super old, and it has to do with this whole planet. The whole planet. So that's why we want to look at religion and spiritual ideas across the board throughout the history of this planet, because our laws, our legislation, in essence, hey, this is how the civilizations on this planet live. This is the structure of the civilizations on this planet. Now, let's be real, inevitably, and in I'm going to say most cases, the society becomes corrupt. The rich get in power. The control freaks get in power. They get conquering nations. It's just like that old saying, well, which is no longer true, but, we can say, well, the sun never sets on the British Empire. That was control freak madness. The same thing with the Romans, except, there was no North America back then. The Americas were not part of the ideas of the Roman Empire because they just didn't have the technology. If they had the technology, they would have done it, believe me. Okay, this is just the way it goes. However, we're talking about when you're setting up the civilization, you want the civilization not to be chaotic. You want order, you want niceness, you want kindness, you want, let's be cool to everybody and have a cool society. Well, how do you be cool to everybody and have a cool society? You're going to have to tap into your religious and spiritual beliefs. It doesn't matter what they are, because they're derivatives from something else. Even, and this is going to shock you Christians out of your shoes, even if their religion's based on the gods, or based on some other old form, like, okay, we're in Polynesia, and I don't know much about Polynesia, but, they had their gods or their ways of looking at life and their spiritual ideas and their spiritual stuff. But what did it provide? It provided a society, it provided a civilization that was based on kindness, love, be cool to each other. Don't do heinous stuff because we'll take you out and we'll apply law on you. We'll beat you with sticks or whatever the heck they did. Who knows? But see, these are the things we have to look at. Because we really want to see that religion and spirituality is really super pervasive on this planet. And regardless of how much the world system these days wants to try and destroy it and rip it out of the minds of people, it's utter folly. I mean, all you have to do is open your eyes and look around and just think about what I just said for the last couple of minutes, and you'll see, ripping religion and spirituality out of society and turning us into a bunch of people that are like, oh, no, there's no such thing as this, and that's insanity. It's a form of madness. It is an ideology based on world system brainwashing, which is really not in alignment with what we're looking at right now, which is actually derivatives of what wisdom really is. Because what they were able, and when I say they, I'm saying the cultures of the past, what they were able to ascertain, what they were able to discover, what they were able to tap into and understand about wisdom is what their spiritual and religious beliefs are based upon. Bottom line, end of story, period. That's the way it is. You want to know why wisdom is important? That's one of the big reasons wisdom is important. The whole world is based on it. Societies are supposed to be based on it. Of course, they get corrupt. They turn into madness because the world system likes to be control freaks. What can you say? Hey, this is the way of the world. Which is going to take us into the venue of looking closer at religions and seeing that it divides to two different kinds of religion and spiritual beliefs. So let's traipse off now and look at the two kinds of religious and spiritual beliefs. And when I say two kinds, I'm being incredibly generalizing. And the reason I'm being incredibly generalizing is because the best way to understand something is in its most simplest form. And that's why I'm taking it to its most simplest form. And in this case, its most simplest form are Religions, and we're just going to say religions, so spiritual beliefs are something religions are based upon. Now, when we get to other recordings in this website that talk about things where I'm introducing certain kinds of physics, I'm going to be changing this up a little bit. The core reality is still there. I'm just going to add additions to it to make the understanding a lot more intensive. But for now, let's go simple, okay? So I'm just going to use the word religion. Instead of religion and spiritual beliefs, I'm just going to say religion. So to make this really easy and clear, there are two variations of religions on this planet and have been for a very, very long time. These are religions of light, that's one, and religions of darkness, or religions that are void of light. That's two. We're going to look at both of these for a moment or two because I want you to understand where I'm coming from. This will really, really seriously help our understanding as we move forward and keep adding to what we've already been talking about for a long time now. One thing to note before we plunge into this is that the original civilization that does its laws and legislations and codes and statutes doesn't use two kinds or two sets of religion. It uses one because it's a derivative of spiritual beliefs and religious ideas. When civilizations and cultures get set up, they don't want chaos. They don't want madness. They want everything to be cool because they're building a civilization from the ground up. Okay? When I'm talking about the two civilizations, this is what inevitably happens as time goes on. Now, in some cases, it happens to the extreme. That's when you come up with religions of darkness. In a lot of cases, it doesn't go that far. And thank God Almighty, it doesn't go that far. But we need to look at these things. So here we go. Now, when I'm saying the word religion, I'm actually talking about doctrines and teachings. Doctrines and teachings. These things become official positions. Doctrines and teachings. So when I say the word religion, please understand I'm talking about doctrines and teachings. And the reason I'm making this clear is because many things that start off, for example, the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church didn't start out by burning people or torturing people and stealing their goods and doing all these horrible, wicked things. It devolved into that because their doctrines and their teachings became darkness doctrines and teachings over time. Okay? So that's a prime example. So I'm actually speaking about doctrines and teachings, especially doctrines and teachings that become official policy, doctrines and teachings. Because that's what religion really is. And again, religion coming from the word religare, which is basically to take a bunch of different things, band them together, tie them together, weld them together as one thing, and now it's religare, which is the root word of religion. Okay? But it's doctrines and teachings. Now, doctrines and teachings of light takes people out into the cosmos and says, let's examine the big picture. Let's examine how things are set up. Let's examine how things work. In fact, I'm going to tell you this, and this is very important for the times we live in. Incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important. Modern day physics is in fact, and I'm talking about real physics, not bogus bullshit science they make up to say, oh yes, well, this is this and that's that, so we're going to make these mandates and steal your money or you know, pull these shenanigans on you. I'm talking about real live physics and things based upon physics is in fact doctrines and teachings of light. This is how things work. This is how things are put together. This is the function. This is what things are. Like Newtonian physics, this is doctrines and teachings of light. Like Einstein's theories of relativity, those are doctrines and teachings of light. Maybe they don't take, okay, well, it's a churchy thing. But churchy things are just churchy things. Churchy things and creation, these are not synonymous. These are not the same exact things. Churchy things, churches are systems. They're systems of something we brand as religion. But we are talking about teachings of light as opposed to teachings of darkness, which are things void of light. Darkness, void of light. Okay? It's not teaching you the light. So this is a very important point to understand, especially in the 21st century. Physics is part of the teachings of light. Very important to understand. Never let any ideology, I don't care if it comes from your highest religious guy on planet Earth that you think, oh, this is the greatest religious guy ever. Hey, don't allow that. That's religious ideology. Stop. Don't. You're hurting us.